Hey everyone, take 2 of this. Dropped out because I went from Wi-Fi to something else. So I want to talk about fear and what it means. And for me, fear is a very positive word, because to me it's a positive word around the fact that you're being pushed to an uncomfortable part or an uncomfortable zone and you're not sure what's going to happen. And so fear without doing anything about it is very dangerous, and fear with leaning into it and pushing on to what you're fearing has better outcomes. You know, I always look at one of my daughters around the fact that she's very quiet, and she's taught herself how to go into and attack her fear. So, you know, just not wanting to go down a water slide, for example, and she actually talks herself into it. She says, you know, okay, well, and this is with us helping her through that process. We're saying, well, look, currently, right now, you've seen 50 or 60 people go down this water slide and everything's been fine. You know, you have a number of years that this water slide has been working with hundreds of people a day. So where's your fear coming from? Is it coming from the anxiety that something can happen to you? Is it coming from the fact that you're unsure of how you're going to feel during the process of going down the water slide? All of that. And I'm so proud of her. Watched her recently, well, not recently, a while ago, make her way up a pretty full-on water slide that was pretty steep, and it was overseas. And she made it to the top. Everyone up top was trying to get her to do it as well, and encourage her, and she ultimately turned around, she says, I can't do it, and started to walk down the stairs. And so I said, are you okay? You sure? She goes, yeah, no, I'll meet you down the bottom. And so we were just about to jump into the slide with another daughter, and she just appeared. And so she got down one flight of stairs and talked herself into a place of saying, I know what I've felt like when I've achieved something good. And she did it, and it was so amazing, so beautiful to see when people challenge their fear. And it's not just my daughter, it's everyone that does it on a daily basis. And in recent months we've been challenging a fear of ours around what's really been happening in context of what we're doing, our movement, and the bigger drive for community and the outcomes for community. And it's been, you know, a lot of anxiety and a lot of anxiousness and a lot of unknown. And really, when you open yourself up to the fear, a lot happens. There's a guy called Kyle Cease, C-E-A-S-E, comedian, making huge bounds in you know, filling halls and doing Netflix series and whatever, and just developed this huge fear about flying, about everything. It was just so not normal. And he knew he could, like me, I can talk through my anxiety, but it doesn't stop it. And so he just one day got up one morning and said, no more of this. He said, no more. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. I'm not going to do it the way that the establishment wants me to do it. And he just started talking from the heart. And he still has his beautiful comedic ability to talk about things, and at the same token, the messages that he wants to bring. And he just started doing a couple of hours meditation every day. And people said, how can you afford 2 hours of meditation a day? He says, how can you not afford to do 2 hours meditation? And when you say meditation, we just say stillness. Just sit there. And he just sits there and sees what comes into his mind, accepts it. Sometimes he thinks about it. And some of his greatest little vlog posts have been straight after he's been through an hour of meditation. He comes back, I've got something to say. And so for me, hey Michaela, for me, these sort of things, I think about at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's just one of those things that I stare at the ceiling a lot, and I get to think about it. And the reason I bring up fear as well is I'm just on my way to an appointment now. One of our high-res students, sent me a news article around a domestic violence house that was getting some pressure put onto it by a government body because of certain things that they didn't know, and remember, ignorance is bliss. So, you know, they didn't know, but they weren't meeting standards. And so their fear was completely based around that they didn't know what to do next or which direction to move. And their fear was about, oh no, we're not going to be able to help out domestic violence, rather than leaning into the fear and saying, what alternatives can we come up to and make a difference? So I rang them out of the blue and just said to them, I'd like to have an appointment with you. I think that I could be of assistance to help you out. And from then, we've spent numerous phone calls talking to different government bodies and finding a approval process to allow them to operate at full potential, because essentially they were operating out of 3 rooms that in a 7-bedroom house. And with our experience across the country in this area, we know all the rules and regulations. I mean, that's the beauty about what we've been doing the last 5 years, because, you know, forget the investment return that we've been getting in other properties. I can actually step out and, as pro bono work, go through and say to people, okay, where's your fear right now? Their fear is that they're only operating out of 3 and 7, which means it's not economical for them because of the cost of the property. And so they need to have a few more people that also are in there so that they can pay. Now, they don't make money. They actually lose money. But at the same token, having such a large house with its running costs and its cost on a weekly basis doesn't make any sense for them, and their fear was they had to close down. And so I said, well, let's not look at the fear, let's look at what we can do and find outside the square box thinking. And thankfully, with a couple of team members that we've got an electrician and a fire and safety guy, they're helping us out. We've got a certifier that understands the rules and regulations that we have actually had to teach the certifier what we know. And he's gone off, investigated and said, nah, you're correct, I can do that. That's fabulous. And we're now in a position where today they're actually doing the works to transfer that from a 1A building to a 1B building certification, which means they'll be up and operating in the next couple of weeks at the full capacity of 7 and taking women, this place does women, out of extreme domestic violence cases and giving them the potential to be studying again and looking after their kids in this property together. And that's a good thing. So rather than focus on the fear, focus on what the fear is doing to you so that you can project forward and make a change. So again, the question would be, okay, so I fear something. Why am I fearing it? And, you know, my favorite quote is, every day, given the opportunity to make a decision, take the uncomfortable option every time, because no level of success has ever been achieved without some level of discomfort. So get yourself uncomfortable to get to a point where you're pushing into that fear. Now, fear, you know, activates a number of different chemicals in your body, and if you continue to act on the fear as if not taking action, then that's going to put you in a worse place. However, by acting on fear and putting yourself in a better place, it then releases a whole brand of new components of chemicals in your body, including dopamine, oxytocin, you know, everything that works with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland to start creating a steadiness in your life and a good feeling. You know, that dopamine is the happy drug, and that comes from levels of success, it comes from levels of fulfillment, it comes from hugging, kissing. Oxytocin, the same thing. You know, I always joke about the fact that when you go and have and this may not be good for some of you listening to it, but when you go and have a good crap, it's such a good feeling. And that's because it actually develops dopamine and oxytocin in that situation. There's only 4 things that do oxytocin. So hugging, kissing, a good crap, and fulfilling part of your life. And so, you know, so lean into fear, and make sure you understand that if you're fearing something, it's actually a positive thing. There's a protection mechanism there, but you're essentially trying to get beyond something so that you can grow bigger and better as a person. So tomorrow I'll have to talk about a property thing, and I'll pick something up in property. I might actually do making an offer on property. I think is something I thought about on the weekend. So thanks for listening. Just about to get to my appointment, so have a good day.